The Democrat leader.
Mr. President, I want to be very clear about something. When Donald Trump goes on Fox News and says to Republicans, don't even bother to deal with Democrats, when he says out loud that he says he doesn't need or want our votes, that means Donald Trump wants a shutdown. Make no mistake about it. Trump can say a million times he doesn't want a shutdown, but he is acting as if he absolutely wants one. His words say one thing, but his actions say another. He's ordering Republicans not to even bother working with Democrats. He is telling Republicans to, quote, fight back against the radical left Democratic demands. He is telling them to vote yes on a partisan CR that fails to meet the needs of the American people and had no Democratic input. These are the kinds of actions a president takes when he wants a shutdown. Closing negotiations, forcing partisan votes, ignoring the needs on health care, on costs, on so many other issues of the American people. And it's the same story with Leader Thune and Speaker Johnson. They are doing exactly what Donald Trump wants. They say they want to vote on a partisan CR as soon as possible here in the Congress, but they have refused even to sit down at the table with Leader Jeffries and I, despite repeated requests. So look, our Republican colleagues can say whatever they want, but it is clear as could be that they want a shutdown. They can say they don't. They're acting as if they do. They can try and play the blame game, but their actions tell a different story. Their actions show clearly they want to shut things down because they don't want to negotiate with Democrats. And it's more than that. It means Republicans don't want to help the American people with the crisis they've created, raising people's costs, particularly their health care costs. They don't want to do anything about the crisis they've created for their hospitals, despite the outcry from hospitals, hospital workers, and patients from one end of the country to the other. They don't want to do anything about the fact that people's premiums are going to shoot through the roof. They don't want to stop the rampant and illegal abuses of Donald Trump when he steals or cancels congressional-approved funding for medical research, or other things. By refusing to sit down with Democrats, Republicans are telling the American people that they're happy to help Donald Trump burn this country down. They're happy to let the government shut down. Well, the American people don't want Republicans to shut the government down. The American people expect Republicans who are in charge to sit down and negotiate, as any responsible leaders would do. They expect Republicans to do their jobs. On Friday, Donald Trump said on Fox and Friends that all he needs is Republican votes. He's wrong. He doesn't know how to count. It takes 60 Senate votes for anything to pass. That means you need Democratic votes. That's a plain fact. And to get those votes, he needs some input from Democrats. And we particularly want to talk about people's high costs, particularly in health care, created by the Republican Big Beautiful Bill. Those are the plain facts. If Donald Trump says no negotiations at all, then it's Donald Trump's shutdown. Okay. Bolton.
Leader Schumer, you said in March, you argued that government shutdown would give the keys to the city and the government to Trump and Rust vote, give them a lot of power to furlough federal workers, slash agencies. Is that any different now?
It's much different now for at least three reasons. One, the Republicans are in much weaker position now than they were then. The BBB bill, which they have passed, is highly unpopular with the American people. Americans are going to Republican congressmen and senators and say undo it. Second, Democrats are unified. We have been strong on the same message for a very long time, which is we need to help the American people lower their costs, particularly on health care, and we need a bipartisan negotiation. And third, We have seen the unlawfulness since then. We have seen the unlawfulness in new ways, including rescissions, impoundments, etc. So the situation is much different.
Democrat leader.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Objection.
Mr. President, yesterday, Speaker Johnson and House Republicans released a partisan CR that failed to meet the needs of the American people. Republicans have been calling their bill a clean CR, but clean is the wrong word. It's a partisan bill. It's had no input from Democrats. And most importantly, because it's had no input from Democrats, it's a status quo bill. It's a status quo bill. Americans don't want the status quo. With tens of millions being kicked off health insurance, with health care premiums set to skyrocket next year, with people paying more for groceries, for energy costs, for rent, and struggling because of Donald Trump's tariffs, people need help. That's what they're telling us from one end of the country to the other. They're not happy with the way direction America is going. American people want their leaders to address their needs, and that's just what Democrats are fighting for. The last thing the American people want is a status quo bill that continues the chaos and high cost of the last 9 months. But the Republican bill, not only is it partisan, but it's a status quo bill. It changes nothing. It continues the chaos and high costs of the last 9 months. And Democrats say, no way. We need to answer people's needs. When they tell us prices are going through the roof, when they tell us their health care is at risk, they want us to be there. And so we need to sit at the table and talk to our Republican colleagues so the American people's needs can be taken into account in a bipartisan negotiation. But the Republican CR is certainly not the right answer. And Republicans are causing a shutdown, creating it, by negotiating, by not negotiating, and by not being willing to answer the country's needs. The American people deserve better than the Republicans' failed agenda. They deserve better than keeping the status quo, because there's been such damage done in the last 9 months. Soon, Senate and House Democrats will release our own proposal to keep the government open with a short-term extension that properly meets the needs of the American people. Our bill will represent the right path to avoid a shutdown crisis, by addressing health care costs and cuts, by preventing premiums from going up, by restoring and extending congressional funds for things like NIH that Donald Trump and Russell Vought are illegally halting. Once both sides put forth proposals, and ours will be coming shortly, Republicans will face a choice: to keep following Donald Trump into a reckless shutdown that he seems to want, or to finally come to the table and work with us. Remember, it takes 60 votes to get anything passed in the Senate. That means Democratic input is a necessity to improve the lives and lower costs for the American people, because Republicans are not doing a thing to make things better. This is not optional, it's necessary. Republicans know that. And yet, Donald Trump has told Republicans, don't even bother, he said, don't even bother negotiating with Democrats, and they have unfortunately, dutifully obeyed. By not even bothering to talk to Democrats, Republicans are paving the road that leads to a shutdown. That's deeply troubling for the American people. They expect Donald Trump and Republicans to do their jobs and to address their needs, and to keep the government open by working like adults with the other side, not just saying it's my way or the highway, particularly when their way represents a status quo that the American people abhor. And mark my words, the American people will blame Donald Trump if a shutdown happens. Finally, I'll say it again because it's important. Democrats don't want a shutdown, but Republicans cannot shut Democrats out of the process and pretend like the last 9 months have been business as usual. There's nothing business as usual about kicking 16 million people off health care. There is nothing business as usual about Donald Trump illegally stealing and canceling federal investments improved by Congress, even for NIH research, which may save children with cancer's lives. There is nothing business as usual about Donald Trump tearing up budgets, ignoring the law, picking winners and losers for things as vital as disaster relief. Republicans know that these abuses can't just continue as if everything is just fine. Everyone knows that Americans are frustrated with the status quo, frustrated with costs going up and up and up, frustrated with Donald Trump injecting so much chaos into their lives. And Republicans think that's okay? No questions asked? No negotiation or discussion? Give me a break. In the Senate, it takes 60 votes. So that means Republicans will need to work with us. If they can't even bother to have a conversation with Democrats, it's Republicans then, who American people will know, are causing the shutdown in 2 weeks. We still have some time. I pray it doesn't happen. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsterbrooks.
Okay, so we just put out our budget proposal. The contrast between the Democratic budget proposal and the Republican proposal is glaring. The Republicans want the same old status quo, rising costs, declining health care. Democrats want to meet people's needs by improving health care and lowering costs in health care and many other places. And Donald Trump continues to push for a shutdown by not negotiating with us. But we are confident when the American people contrast these two proposals, they're going to side with us. They're going to tell Republican congressmen and senators that they should start talking to the Democrats, because we are talking about what people need. Same old story, same status quo. People are not happy. Something like 38% of Americans think America is on the right track. This budget doesn't put them on the right track. Their budget doesn't put them on the right track. Ours does. And we just welcome the contrast. We're very, very pleased when people look at our budget and theirs. Okay. Yes?
It seems like Republicans have already outright rejected the idea of your plan. Are you willing to shut the government down?
Ask the Republicans if they're willing to shut the government down. That's where they're headed.
Senator, the amount of money for member security is much higher on your bill than it is for Republicans' bill. Why is that?
Look, the Senate believes we have to make our senators, Democrat, Republican, everybody secure, and we put up a strong proposal to do that. We'll see what the House does.
Senator, how much of the Medicaid funding would your bill restore?
Our bill would restore all of the Medicaid funding. That's what the American people want. We'll sit down and negotiate. If they will sit down and negotiate. We don't have a red line, but we know we have to help the American people. We know that our bill does. We know the American people will reject the status quo embodied in the Republican bill.
If they just give you a commitment to work on some of these issues, like an extension of subsidies, would that be enough for you all to vote for?
Well, look, we have 2 weeks.
CR?
They should sit down and talk to us, and we maybe can get a good proposal. Let's see. But when they don't talk to us, there's no hope of getting a good proposal. And that makes no sense. And again, when Donald Trump says, don't negotiate with Democrats, because he doesn't know what the Senate is like, or he doesn't know how to count. Because without Democrats, they're going to end up shutting down the government. Last one.
How much does the permanent extension of Obamacare subsidies cost? Is this hundreds of billions of dollars?
Look, it's a very important thing for people. And if you don't extend the Obamacare tax credits, people's premiums are going to go up $400 or $500 a month, and they're going to start learning about that when they get the notices in October. Since you left Buffalo Night, did you leave Buffalo Night?
Yes.
And you get the last question.
Thank you so much.
I was at Buffalo Night and presented the Charging Buffalo Award, and we led the chant of "Squish the Fish."
Got it. Thank you.
Got it.
So Leader Thune has been very public about inviting you to his office, saying he did give you a call. You can give him a call.
Give me a
Have you
break.
done that?
For 2 months, Leader Jeffries and I have asked them to come negotiate. He is the leader. He has not asked us to negotiate at all. And why? We didn't know. Why wouldn't they sit down? And then it became clear, because Donald Trump told them not to. And even though that's bad for the American people and bad for them, because it's going to end up that they're shutting down the government, they're just too afraid of Trump. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
The quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
So, Mr. President, yesterday, Democrats released our bill to extend government funding and meet the needs of the American people. The contrast between the Republican bill and the Democratic bill is glaring. The Republican bill is more of the same failed status quo of Donald Trump's failed policies. More high costs, health care debt cuts, premiums up. Democrats have a different option. We address the crises Americans face in health care, in Medicaid, in inflation, and in higher costs. The House is expected to vote on their partisan, status quo bill either later today or tomorrow. If the bill passes the House, the Senate should take up the issue immediately afterwards. We could do it quickly, so we don't interfere with anyone's travel plans to Arizona. We would ask for limited debate and just 2 votes. The House status quo bill, which delays any sort of health care relief, and the Democratic alternative, which would lower health care costs for millions of Americans. I urge Republican leaders to speed up these votes. Now, one of the oldest sayings in politics is from the great Abraham Lincoln. He said that public sentiment is everything. That is certainly true in this debate. The American people will look at what Republicans are doing, look at what Democrats are doing, and it will be clear that public sentiment is on our side. Public sentiment will be on our side for at least 3 reasons. First, the American people want both sides to work together. We have made it clear we want a bipartisan negotiation, but Republicans don't. The American people detest seeing Republicans being so intransigent. Republicans are governing like their view is the only view. That is, of course, not true. We are a split country, half and half. And to cut one half out entirely, no talk, no negotiation, is unacceptable for the American people. That won't win public sentiment in any way. Second reason public sentiment is on our side. Americans are tired of the failed, chaotic, high-cost status quo, which decimates their health care, which raises their costs, and which Republicans are defending in their bill. Tens of millions of people are going to lose coverage. Starting in October, millions will receive notices that their health care insurance premiums are going to go up $400, $500, $600, not a year, a month. The average working family can't afford that. Premiums are skyrocketing. Now hospitals from Virginia to Nebraska, from Maine to California are shutting down now, not later. People won't be able to see a doctor or access affordable medication. I met a woman whose daughter had cancer. She said to me they depend on Medicaid for her recovery. What is she going to do? Wait? Delay? See what the Republicans want to do, if anything, when they haven't said they do anything at all and they decimated health care themselves? Now, nursing homes are going to close down. And many, many American families are not going to know what to do about taking care of their elderly parents. They may not have room at home to have them move in, and even if they did, they can't give them the kind of health care their parents got in nursing homes. But nursing homes, one after the other, are going to close. They depend on Medicaid. This is all chaos. This is suffering. Medical research, which can cure cancer or Alzheimer's, millions are alive because we invested in medical research. Cut it off, just stifle it, don't send the money out for it. This is chaos. This is suffering. This is the results of Donald Trump's policies, which the status quo partisan Republican bill maintains. And Americans are tired of this status quo. All the data shows it. Even Leader Thune called the Republican bill status quo, the status quo option on the floor yesterday. America, you want the status quo on health care? Leader Thune says his bill is status quo. And today I was amazed to hear that Leader Thune called our bill filthy. Is it filthy to provide health care for sick Americans? Is it filthy to prevent premiums from going up $400 or $500 a month? Is it filthy to prevent rural hospitals from closing? That's why Republicans are so out of touch. That is why. The American people desperately want change. They don't think our country's headed in the right direction. And they need help in bringing health care costs down, providing better health care. They need help staying coverage. They need health for the essentials. The Republican status quo bill doesn't do any of this, but the Democratic bill does. The second reason that public sentiment is on our side, not theirs. Finally, and just as importantly, it is unacceptable that Donald Trump has told Republicans not to negotiate with Democrats. And Donald Trump is heading America towards a shutdown by not negotiating. Look, here's what he said. These are Trump's words, not mine. I'll remind everybody of his words last week. Don't even bother to deal with Democrats. When Donald Trump says don't even bother to deal with Democrats, he says he wants a shutdown. Plain and simple. And again, that's the last thing the American people want. A president who says my way or the highway and shut the government down if I don't get my way. That's what he's saying. The public is on our side. The public is on our side. Public sentiment is everything. The Republicans don't like the partisanship, they don't like the status quo bill, and they certainly don't like Donald Trump refusing to even have Democrats be part of the decision. He says he doesn't need us. Well, Donald Trump either doesn't know how to count or doesn't understand the modicum of Senate procedure, which most Americans do. You need 60 votes, Mr. President, Donald Trump. You got 53. You need our votes. To say not to bother with us is saying you want a shutdown, plain and simple. And the American people see that. Finally, Leader Thune has spent a lot of time talking about the past. He's quoted me. I want to remind Leader Thune, I want to remind my Republican colleagues, when Democrats were in the majority and I was majority leader, every year we did not see a shutdown. I was majority leader for 4 years. No shutdowns. Why? Because we sat down with the other side and negotiated. We knew that the majority had to work with the minority. Like now, then, we had to get 60 votes. And bipartisanship ruled the day. It had to, if you want to avoid a shutdown. Why is that not happening now? Well, frankly, Leader Jeffries and I were befuddled for about a month, because in late July, we asked Thune and Johnson to sit down with us. Late July. We heard nothing from them. Crickets. We asked again in early September. Nothing. Crickets. But now it's become clear why they wouldn't sit down with us. Here's the reason. Donald Trump. Donald Trump made it clear, don't even bother dealing with the Democrats. Thune and Johnson, listen to Trump. They are not independent actors. They don't represent an independent Congress, an independent House, or an independent Senate. And when Donald Trump says don't negotiate with Democrats, they don't, and come up with 20 excuses why. The single biggest reason that we are on the brink of a shutdown is Donald Trump's refusal to let Republicans even negotiate. I yield the floor.
Chair recognizes the Democratic leader.
Tomorrow, the Senate will hold votes on two bills: the status quo continuing resolution from the Republicans, which will lead to a shutdown, and the Democrats' plan to prevent a shutdown while avoiding a catastrophe in rising health care costs. Tomorrow, Americans will see the glaring contrast between the Republican plan continuing the status quo of Donald Trump's health care cuts and high costs, and the Democratic plan to avoid a shutdown while lowering premiums, fixing Medicaid, and protecting funds for scientific and medical research. The latest studies, in fact, show that the impacts of the Republican health care cuts are quickly getting worse and worse than first imagined. This is an oncoming train that must be stopped. So tomorrow, Republicans can choose: either listen to Donald Trump and shut the government down, or break this logjam by supporting our bill and keeping the government open. The votes tomorrow will tell all. I yield the floor. The fact that the House adjourned until October 1st, that shows you it's clear evidence that they want to shut down. We don't. Yes?
Do you think that your decision in March to basically not get much in return for avoiding a shutdown then made it easier for them to make this play call now and say, let's just do a straight CR and make them eat?
Absolutely not. First, as you saw, the only bill that got a majority of those voting was our bill, not their bill. But second, the world has totally changed from March. First, people have seen the damage the Republicans are doing. The reconciliation bill just decimated health care. Tariffs are now in effect and raising people's costs. Their costs are going up left and right. So they're very, very unhappy with what is happening. Second, we Democrats had plenty of time to be prepared. Our message has been the same for the last 2-3 months, which is we need health care. We need to restore Americans' health care, and we need to get down their costs, and we don't need them to break the law and undo anything the Appropriations Committee did. And third, we have seen the unlawfulness of the Trump administration after March, with the rescissions, with the impoundments, with the pocket rescissions. So the world's a different place right now. Yes?
What's your plan now that this bill is failed?
We want to sit down and negotiate. I think it's clear when you look at the votes on the floor of the House, or the Senate rather, that a negotiation is the only way to avoid a shutdown. We want to do it. So far they don't. We hope they change their minds. Yes?
The president feels like he's pretty comfortable with his position here because you all are asking him to add something to a CR. Why do you seem also very confident that Republicans are going to be the ones who are blamed for this?
Absolutely.
You are taking the votes against the continuing resolution.
No, the bottom line is that they, by not negotiating, are causing the shutdown. And that is plain. And as I said before, when we had the majority, we negotiated with them, there was no shutdown. They're in the majority, they don't negotiate, they cause the shutdown, plain and simple. And what they did today by adjourning the House October 1st, it's becoming clearer and clearer to Americans. They want it. Yes?
Yeah, so Schumer, a lot of the complaints from the Democrats today sound very much like the Republican complaints in 2013 heading into that shutdown. They were insisting on negotiations over health care. They wanted to roll back the ACA. Obama said he wouldn't negotiate. We ended up with a 60-day
Here's what's
shutdown.
different. They were taking something away. We're trying to restore something that they took away. It's a world of difference when you're trying to do some good from people rather than doing negative stuff for people. Okay? Yes?
Why can't you negotiate these healthcare provisions after, separate? You know?
We've been asking for months to do it. Why not do it now? People are hurting. Jobs are being lost. People are getting notices that their health care premiums are going up. People are losing health care. Do it now. There's no reason not to do it now. Let's do it now. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for waiting. And look, what we saw on the floor makes it clear. The Republicans are following Donald Trump's orders to the letter. Stonewall, scapegoat, shirk responsibility. They're doing exactly what Trump told them to do. And then they skip town. No plans, no talks, no urgency. And the House adjourned till October 1st. If there were ever a sign that the Republicans wanted a shutdown, That's it. Now, our bill, of the two bills, our bill was the only bill on the floor that got a majority of those present and voting. Theirs did not, ours did. Donald Trump would rather shut down the government than even talk to Democrats about lowering the cost of health care for Americans, which is what is our goal. And Republicans, unfortunately, sadly, dutifully obeyed. Senate Republicans just voted to shut the government down with a partisan bill that gives Donald Trump everything he wants and nothing the American people need. Donald Trump says he doesn't want to talk. He's still in the go-to-hell mode. His marching orders are to Republicans are don't even bother with Democrats. That is not governing. That's a recipe for a shutdown. And the American people know it. Well, neither bill was able to pass. The theater must end. Let's sit down and negotiate. Now that it's clear that neither bill will get the 60 votes that the Senate needs, it's time to negotiate. The theater must end. The last 4 years, when Democrats were in the majority, we didn't have a shutdown because we always worked with the Republicans. We knew we needed their votes. When Democrats had the majority, no shutdown. Republicans have the majority. They seem to be headed for one, but we hope and pray that they will now see that the only way to avoid a shutdown is negotiate with Democrats, which is how we've always done it. We have only a week left. We're saying clearly, let's sit down, let's figure this out. But Republicans have now left town with no sign they want to avoid a shutdown in a week. They left town. Donald Trump is the shutdown president, and Senate Republicans are following him over the cliff. The stakes are real. The shutdown is devastating to Americans. Democrats are doing everything we can to sit down and negotiate. We do not want a shutdown. Our position has never changed. We need bipartisan legislation to keep the government open and meet the needs of the American people, especially on costs, specifically health care costs. But until Republicans break free from Donald Trump's grip, they're dragging this country straight into another shutdown. We remain ready to work together to fund the government and implore Republicans to come to the table. Okay, well, we met with the president for the first time since all of these issues started, even though we have requested repeated meetings with Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, and the president. We have very large differences on health care and on their ability to undo whatever budget we agree to through rescissions and through impoundment, as well as pocket rescissions. And I think for the first time, the president heard our objections and heard why we needed a bipartisan bill. Their bill has not one iota of Democratic input. That is never how we've done this before. When I was leader, we negotiated 4 times with Republicans, and we never had a shutdown. And so it's up to the Republicans whether they want to shut down or not. We've made to the president some proposals. Our Republican leaders will have to talk to him about them, but ultimately he's the decision maker. And if he will accept some of the things we asked, which we think the American people are for, on health care and on rescissions, he can avoid a shutdown. But there are still large differences between us. Yes.
Wouldn't it be worse to send this country into a prolonged government shutdown than to spend 7 weeks negotiating a possible compromise on health care?
Ask the Republicans. They're the ones causing this. Yes.
Republicans say that they want the clean CR to buy time to negotiate over the enhanced premium tax credits, etc. Are you worried that when people give their notices that their premiums are going up in October, that they will decide not to buy insurance, and even if you do fix it by the end of the year, they won't?
Yes. That's the reason, some of the Republican leaders said, let's wait till January or late December. You hit the reason. They can't. On October 1st, they get these notices, and many of them by November have to make a decision whether to change their health care. If you're a person, middle-class person, and you're going to hear that the premiums are going to go up $400 a month, that's the average in the country, $5,000 a year, you may say either I can't afford health care and drop it, or more likely take a less generous plan where you pay much more for co-payments, deductibles, and everything else. So you can't wait till January. You have to do that now.
Let me address it.
Sahil.
On the policy front with ACA, Leader Thune has said the only way these will get extended is if there are new reforms and restrictions on where that money can go. Is that an acceptable premise?
We said to him, renew it so that people aren't hurt, and then we can discuss what other reforms you want. But you got to renew it now. Yes.
Now that you've presented these issues directly to the president, would you propose or would you support a 7 to 10 day CR?
No.
So there's more time.
No, we have to do it now. The time is a wasting. We have to do it now. We've delayed and delayed and delayed. As I said, as Martin Luther King once said, later means never. They don't want to do this, the Republican leaders, because they're right-wing. It'll divide their party. Their right-wing hates ACA altogether. But we have to get it done. And the president, the way to do this is the president, who is really listening to us, tells the Republicans to do it.
Let me make a point about timing.
Yeah.
House Democrats are here. Senate Democrats are here. The Senate is ready to act. House Republicans cancel votes. They're on vacation right now, all across the country, and some are spread out across the world. They're not serious about actually reaching a bipartisan agreement that meets the needs of the American people. If House Republicans were serious, they'd be here right now. And there was no explanation in that meeting from the Speaker of the House of Representatives as to how possibly votes could be canceled. And at the same time, people are supposed to believe that Republicans are serious about addressing the health care crisis that they've caused, but simply want to kick the can down the road and expect us to take a Hail Mary promise. That's unreasonable, that's unacceptable, and it's divorced from reality.
If you ever wanted proof that Republicans want to shut down because they're afraid of this vote, look at when the Speaker scheduled the House to come back in after a shutdown. President, we have order, please.
Please take your conversations outside the chamber.
In a few minutes, the Senate is going to vote on the Republican partisan status quo bill. It's a partisan status quo bill. The Republican CR was the wrong option for America a week ago. It remains the wrong option today because it does nothing, absolutely nothing, to solve the biggest health care crisis in America. As we speak, tens of millions of Americans are getting letters in the mail informing them that their health care premiums are about to shoot up by an average of 114%. For a working-class family that needs health care, this is a huge increase. It's going to dramatically hurt them. And our Republican colleagues want to do nothing about it. 4 million people are about to lose coverage. 24 million people will see their health care costs go up. And even if you don't have ACA, the insurers are going to raise rates on you because they're getting so much less money because of all the cuts my colleagues made. This is a crisis. Now, I know the leader is going to show a poll that says that Democrats will be blamed for the shutdown. There are many more polls that show Republicans are blamed. The question in that poll is biased. Biased. In the New York Times, but it's biased. If you turn the That's true. I don't always believe the New York Times. You can be sure of that. Neither do you. Okay. But in any case, here's a poll from Morning Consult today. 75% of Americans support extending the tax premium credit. 63% of Republicans support it. And 45% of voters say they'll blame Republicans in Congress for a government shutdown. Only 32% blame Democrats. It's natural that people understand that Donald Trump and the Republicans want to shut down and Democrats do not. We need to deal with this health care crisis now, not later. But the Republican bill fails to do that. I urge my Republican colleagues instead to join with us work in good faith to keep the government open, keep costs down. This is a totally partisan bill. Not once were we approached about what our input should be. When I was Majority Leader, 13 different times we passed CRs. Why? Because every single one of those 13 times we negotiated with Republicans to keep the government open. We still want to have those negotiations today. Democrats remain ready to get to work to negotiate a bipartisan agreement, a truly bipartisan agreement to keep the government open. But we need to fix our health care system now. We need to stop premiums from going up dramatically. We need to be on the side of the American people because they are on our side in terms of getting this health care crisis fixed, one created by the so-called big, beautiful bill, which they now want to change the name because they know it's so unpopular. In fact, Republican leaders are saying, don't talk about health care, because they know that we are on their side and the Republicans are not. The issue can't wait. It must be dealt with now, not in November, when it'll be too late. The Republican CR is silent on health care and the wrong option for the country. It's as simple as that. Yield the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Just a short time ago, Leader Thune told us that there are some conversations with Democrats to try to woo them to their side. Also, we saw Senator Cortez Masto, Senator King vote in favor of the Republican CR. Are you concerned about that at all, and are you aware of any of these conversations?
First, I'm concerned about Americans' health care. That's what we Democrats are concerned about. They're having real trouble. It's going to get a lot worse with this 114% increase, and we feel we're representing our constituents in the best way possible by insisting that Republicans come to the table. We certainly are willing to have negotiations. There's no problem with that, but they've got to be bipartisan and they've got to have real input from both sides. Yes.
Senator Thune says that he plans to have a vote again and again and again on the GOP CR. So can you guarantee with 100% certainty that that plan will never get 60 votes?
Look, the bottom line is, as I said, our guarantee is to the American people that we're going to fight as hard as we can for their health care, plain and simple. Yes.
Just said before you got here that he disagrees with the premise of these subsidies they were put in place during COVID. They should have never been extended this far. Are you willing to take anything less other than what you demanded in your bill?
Look, the bottom line is we're not going to negotiate this bill in public. We need to come to a bipartisan solution that protects America's health care. Yes, in the back.
Leader Schumer,
No, okay, go ahead.
what's your strategy for getting Republicans to negotiate at this point, given that they haven't so far?
The strategy is the American people are demanding it and going to demand it more and more on October 1st, October 2nd. They're going to keep demanding that we do something about this. And Republicans are feeling the heat. You have a good number of Senate Republicans and House Republicans, as was mentioned. When they talk to us privately, they say this is untenable. When I even sat with the president yesterday and explained to him about this, he said, "Well, that's bad. That'll hurt me." So the bottom line is the American people are making their voices known to the Republicans, and that's what we know is going to happen. And hopefully they'll understand that and come to bipartisan solutions that help the American people. Yes. No, right there. No. It's everyone's skipping.
Thank you. Yesterday you said after the White House meeting that you told President Trump and Republicans they could take two things from your bill and put them in to get it to avoid a shutdown. That was the ACA credits you mentioned and the provisions on impoundments and rescissions. You did not mention the provisions that would roll back the Medicaid cuts. Is that still a demand for Democrats, or is that something you guys are taking on?
Look, we care about everything. You know, we care about health care across the board. I wanted to start off to the president with a couple of things, but it's not an exclusive list. Yes.
With two additional Democrats voting for the Republican CR tonight, doesn't that undermine your leverage as you try to seek a negotiation with Republicans?
The bottom line is, again, what gives us the ability to win this argument with the American people is we're standing for what they want with health care, and they are not. Thank you, everybody.
3 votes tonight. Why isn't your argument to...
The Democratic leader.
Ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Well, Mr. President, it's day 3 of the Trump shutdown, and the government remains closed because Donald Trump and Republicans insist on raising Americans' health care premiums and kicking millions off their insurance, sending premiums skyrocketing as Republicans insist, is fundamentally unsustainable. The American people overwhelmingly support affordable health care. 70% of Americans support extending the ACA premium tax credit, according to a poll released yesterday by the Washington Post. And another poll by KFF yesterday found that nearly 80% support an extension. Guess what? Even a majority of Trump supporters support an extension. Even a majority of Trump supporters, by nearly 60%, support an extension. You don't need the polls. Just go into a barbershop. Just go into a diner. Just go into a supermarket and ask people. People are learning about this issue, and they're aghast that their premiums could go up so much. They're aghast that our Republican colleagues don't even want to fix it when it affects so many tens of millions of people, and the amount that it goes up is so high, so high. It's not difficult. We know Americans want this. And we know many of my Republican colleagues want this as well. But failure to act would be devastating. And Republicans know it. Even Donald Trump knows it. He talked about it a little bit with us in the White House when we went a few days back. If we don't act now, then at least 22 million people will see their health care premiums double on average. But for many people, it's even worse than that. If these ACA premium tax credits aren't extended, the average 55-year-old couple making $85,000 a year would see their premiums not just double, but triple. $25,000 a year. How is a senior citizen, even one that has a little bit of savings and a little bit of a cushion, afford $25,000 a year? So that is all Democrats want to fix. We are on the side of the people. The people know it and want it and need it. It's not complicated. Americans want it. Republican voters want it. Democrats remain ready and willing to work with the other side. We're ready to work on a path forward to lower health care costs for the American people and fund the federal government. I yield the floor. New data came out today from KFF. And that is not Kentucky Fried French fries. KFF could be Kentucky French fries. Yeah.
Kaiser Family Foundation.
I know. Orange. Excuse me. Today, new data came out from KFF, the Kaiser Family Foundation, that said that 78% of Americans say Congress should extend the ACA tax credits. 60% of people who voted for Trump said extend the tax credits. And so the Trump administration is feeling it. They know there's trouble. And let me read you a headline from this morning's Wall Street Journal that I thought was very apt and very well written. Raise your hand if any of you wrote it. You get kudos. It says, White House senses political risk on health care despite shutdown bravado. They know that the American people are for it. They know that 60% of MAGA supporters are for it. And why? Well, because if these credits are not extended, listen to this, the average couple who's 55, the average 55-year-old couple making $85,000 a year would see their premiums not just double, but go up $25,000. You're a couple at 55, you're about to think of your retirement. How the hell are you going to find $25,000 a year for your health care? Do you know what anguish that causes people? It's not just something that goes away. People sit there and agonize. How are they going to get health care, which they need so much? What are they going to cut? Republicans hold the House, the Senate, and the White House. They're in charge. American people know that. And the American people know that it's only smart and fair and right that they should negotiate with us if they want our votes, not do a partisan bill. They wrote it all with no Democratic input and say, just vote for it, take it or leave it. Calling someone in the back. Way in the back. Yep, go ahead.
Leader Schumer, it was reported that there was a 34% increase in demand at a military food bank in Fort Worth, Texas this week. How do you square the needs of constituents facing an immediate pain during a shutdown with your focus on lowering healthcare premiums?
The bottom line is there's a simple way to end the shutdown. Come and sit down and negotiate a fair bill with us. Yes?
The president, as you say, has been tweeting out memes. Democrats have said that he doesn't understand this healthcare crisis. What makes you think, what evidence do you have that he will eventually be bowed to public pressure?
The evidence we have is right here. 60%, or 58 I think it is actually, of Trump voters want it extended. And it's going to, the pressure on the president to do the right thing here will get greater in the month, as both Amy and Brian mentioned, as people get their new health care bills, and they see how much it is. It's shocking how much it is. And they go and say who did it, and we Democrats are going to be there day in and day out and say, the president and the Republicans did it, and that's why we feel we're, that's why we feel we're in a strong position.
So you're willing to wait this out for a month? Are you willing to wait this out for a month?
Senator Schatz. Yes.
I asked Speaker Johnson this morning about what he's willing to do to make sure premiums don't spike for Americans, and he said, quote, "We are committed and will do whatever it is necessary to make it happen." So my question to you is, short of your bill, what commitments do you need to see?
Look, I'm not going to negotiate in public. As I said, we need to protect Americans from these rising insurance rates, and we need to sit down and negotiate it. He won't even do that. So how can he say he wants to help Americans if he won't sit down? He knows he needs both sides to get it done, plain and simple. In the White House the other day, he said he didn't want to do any ACA, and he said that before in the past as well. But the American people are going to make it clear to him and certainly his members that they want it done. And I believe that they will be pushed very hard by American citizens who don't want to see their rates go up so much. Based on vote, look, after five failed votes, it should be clear to Republicans that we cannot go forward unless they sit down and seriously negotiate with Democrats to address the health care crisis. It's that simple.
Do you know what Donald Trump was referring to when he said he'd been speaking with some Democrats?
They later, as I understand it, he has not been speaking to any Democrats.
A poll came out from CBS News that found only 48% of Democratic voters believe what you're fighting for is worth a shutdown. If you don't have a majority of your party, how do you continue?
Look, all I can tell you is the American people feel very deeply about solving this healthcare crisis. Every poll we have seen shows they want us to do it, and they feel that the Republicans are far more responsible for the shutdown than we are.
What about these threats to, do these rifts or layoffs? Like, they're still threatening them.
Yeah, the bottom line is that the American people know if they do layoffs, if they do rifts, it falls on Donald Trump's shoulders. He's doing it, not Democrats, and the American people know that.
Do you have concerns that...
Is there any plan?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. And I'm proud to be joined by Senators Murray, Klobuchar, and Kim. So, here we are. We're a week into a government shutdown, and still Republicans are not taking this seriously. Instead of rolling up their sleeves, working with Democrats, and delivering for American families, yesterday we voted for the 5th time on their failed Republican CR. Senate Republicans are trying to run the same failed play and expecting a different result. And the House, even worse. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers are furloughed. Thousands more are working without pay. And meanwhile, House Republicans are getting paid and not working. So federal workers working and not getting paid, House Republicans paid and not working. Very bad thing for them, very bad picture for them, very bad action for them. And now the Republicans are beginning to flip-flop. They're realizing the power of the health care argument from one end of America to the other. Just last week, House GOP conference chair, Lisa McClain, and a member of the leadership, said not to make the message about health care benefits because ours lose that argument. Then yesterday, Speaker Johnson couldn't even look directly into the camera, saying his party is the party working to fix health care. A week or two ago, he didn't want to talk about it. Now he finds he has to talk about it, forced by the American people because they care so much about the issue. That's right, he said Republicans, the party that ripped health care away from millions of Americans to pay for tax cuts for the rich, the party that right now is refusing to actually address the health care crisis they created, refusing to extend the ACA tax credits, are now forced to talk about the very thing they were afraid to talk about, health care costs. And why? They know they're wrong. They know they're on the wrong side of the American people. Our position, Democrats' position, has been totally consistent. It hasn't changed. We want what an overwhelming majority of Americans want: to end this shutdown and address the health care crisis that will send premiums soaring for millions. 80% of Americans want to extend the ACA tax cuts. Amazing. Even more amazing, 58% of Trump voters want to extend the ACA tax cuts. We can and must do both. It's not an either or. End the shutdown and protect Americans' health care. It's not a choice. Republicans don't have to make it one. After weeks of asking Trump and Republican leaders to negotiate, yesterday Trump told reporters he's already talking to Democrats. Well, that's not true. But Leader Jeffries and I are happy to make it true. Democrats remain ready to seriously negotiate with Republicans to address the health care crisis and get out of the Republican shutdown. But we need everyone at the table: Hakeem and I, President Trump, Leader Thune, and of course Speaker Johnson. But however, Speaker Johnson has been a massive roadblock to getting anything done. His members aren't even here doing their jobs. They've been home for weeks. He's not serious and he doesn't give a damn. Instead of doing his job, he's spreading lies, typical Johnson MO, to distract from his total incompetence to get a deal. Let's be clear. Democrats are fighting to protect Americans' health insurance. We're not pushing to give health insurance to undocumented immigrants. That's a lie. It's been proven to be a lie over and over again, but he doesn't care. He just keeps restating the lie because he's so afraid of the truth. Republicans' big old ugly bill will kick millions of American citizens off health care and drive costs through the roof. They know they're on the wrong side of this. More than 80% of Americans agree with Democrats to extend the tax credits. And Johnson is in a pickle. Why doesn't he want to vote on this? Because there are probably half of his caucus that don't want to vote on anything for health care, but there's another 50 to 80 members of his caucus that see the handwriting on the wall and want to vote for extending the credits. So he'd rather not have a vote, and that's why he's had his partisan strategy of sending us a bill and going home, but it ain't working. It ain't working. It's past time for us to work together, okay? It's past time to get it done. And Johnson instead is deceiving, ducking, and denying the reality. It's past time, though, for him, Thune, Trump, to stop the political gains, work with Americans to protect health care, and end the Trump Republican shutdown. Go ahead.
It was Democrats who set these ACA subsidies to expire when they do. Do you regret having done that, and why?
The bottom line is very simple. We want them extended. They don't want them extended. We're fighting to get them extended.
Yes. Republicans, time and time again, say the only reason that you've gotten into this fight is because you're worried about a primary challenge in 2028. Are you worried about the pressure that you're getting from your left flank, and is that part of the reason that you've engaged?
No. The bottom line is very simple. We're fighting for the American people, And it's not just one small group of American people that want this. It's across the board. 55% of Trump voters, hardly a flank in our party, want this. That's why we're doing it. We believe that's our job. The American people are crying out for help. Our job is to try and solve that problem for them, plain and simple. Yes, yes, yes.
The history of shutdowns is not pretty. I understand there have been 22 shutdowns since Gerald Ford was president in the 1970s. Almost every time, these shutdowns have been unsuccessful. What are the odds? What are the odds that you will be able to exact any concessions from Republicans during this shutdown?
Well, the bottom line is they're feeling the heat. Well, now Johnson says he's the health care guy. He couldn't look straight in the camera. He said, let me look straight in the camera, and then he looked around and said, I'm the health care guy. Trump had to talk about it yesterday. The American people are on our side, and this is not just casual to them. When they hear and see, as they get back their notices from the insurance companies, how much more they have to pay, they break out in a cold sweat. How are these families that were mentioned by my colleagues going to afford $10,000 more a year, even $50,000 more a year? So we believe that the pressure that the American people are putting on the Republicans, which are already seeing them signs of cracking, are going to get them to come to the table, and we can negotiate a good deal for the American people. Yes. On Argentina, if Americans want to know just how little Donald Trump seems to care about their health care, look at what he's doing today in the Oval Office. As we speak, the administration is approving $20 billion in taxpayer dollars to bail out Argentina in the middle of a shutdown. I have just one question. If this administration has $20 billion to spare for a MAGA-friendly foreign government, how can they say we don't have the money to lower health care costs here at home? The overwhelming majority of Americans say we need help with our health care, and they're busy spending $20 billion because Trump seems to really like the leader of Argentina. They're both sort of MAGA types. The administration is giving this money away to help Argentina's hard-right president in his election, where his party is in serious trouble. It's a bailout, it's nonsensical, and at the same time, the American people are frightened, scared, worried about losing their health care. It makes no sense to give money to Argentina and then say we don't have enough money to help Americans with health care. It is so against what Americans want. I'm sure if we had a vote here in this country, it would be 99-1 almost that the money belongs here. And that's what we should be focused on. Meanwhile, farmers across America are looking at this Argentina bailout on one side and wondering whose side the administration is on. It's been a devastating year for our soybean farmers because this administration has bungled trade talks with Beijing, and as a consequence, they've killed our soybean exports to that country. Now China is looking precisely to Argentina to cut new soybean deals, while our farmers at home suffer backbreaking losses. And on top of all that, you mean to tell me the administration's fine sending $20 billion of taxpayer dollars to help foreign farmers compete against American farmers here at home in the middle of a shutdown? It's insane, utterly insane. This Argentina bailout is a slap in the face to both American farmers and to working families worried about keeping their health care. So I'll say it again. If this administration has $20 billion to spare for a MAGA-friendly foreign government, they cannot turn around and say we don't have the money to lower health care costs here at home, because those costs are going through the roof. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for waiting. I'm proud to be joined by Senators Murray and Booker. Well, here we are on day 15 of the Trump shutdown. That's right, it's now over 2 weeks since Republicans shut the government down because they refused to negotiate and fix the health care crisis that they themselves created. In fact, House Republicans haven't been here doing their job in weeks. Thousands of federal workers continue to work and not get paid. House Republicans continue to get paid and don't work. Meanwhile, open enrollment starts in 2 weeks. Americans will have to choose plans that send this cost skyrocketing. As we speak, right as we speak, families are getting letters for their new health insurance rates. This is in my home state of New York. It happens to coincidentally be in Stefanik's district. Look at the change. This is a bronze plan on Excelis, which is one of our big insurers. $282 a month. That's a lot for a family, a working family. But look what it goes up to if we don't renew the credits. $1,679. That's close to $1,400 a month. That's like $16,000 a year. Just imagine. Millions of New Yorkers are going to get these notices. Tens of millions of Americans are going to get these notices. And they're just going to say to themselves, what? How am I going to pay this? But you know what the alternative is? Having no health care. And imagine parents thinking, what if my kid gets sick? And there's no health care for them because I can't afford insurance and I can't afford the cost out of my pocket. So these are not just numbers. These are people who are suffering and going to suffer even more. So we have to do something. And right now, Republicans are letting these tax credits expire. Republicans, Donald Trump, Republicans, House and Senate are responsible for this number going up, including Representative Stefanik. So, for the average family or small business owner or farmer in rural upstate New York, spending over $20,000 a year on health care is unfathomable. And nationwide, it's true. Guess what district? Does anyone know? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but does anyone know what district hurts more than any out of any state in the country? Speaker Johnson's. So it shows how much he cares about his constituents. According to a recent report, 85,000 Louisiana residents will lose health insurance. So it's just unfathomable as why Republicans are hiding from this issue that would so hurt American families. Republican policies have skyrocketed costs to historic highs on everything, from beef to electricity costs. Costs is the #1 issue facing American people. How they're going to pay each week their bills. And because of Trump's tariffs, because of what they did on electric rates, because food costs are going up so much, and health care is the tip of the spear of that cost increase. And yet, Republicans are not moving forward. People get sick. People will lose their insurance. People will die. Plain and simple. Republicans know this, and yet neither Trump nor congressional Republicans are even trying to solve the health care crisis. And that is just a horror for the American people. Now on Argentina. Donald Trump's busy trying to deliver $40 billion to bail out Argentina. It's the new Trump doctrine of foreign policy. Argentina first. Rather than fix the health care crisis devastating Americans here at home, Trump's doubling down on sending $40 billion to a right-wing MAGA strongman in Argentina. Now he's trying to pressure American banks to pony up, on top of the $20 billion in taxpayer money that he's sending there. This shows the administration's priorities. They'd rather give $40 billion to a MAGA dictator than help relieve Americans from the health care crisis they are suffering from. Whatever happened to America first, Donald Trump? Whatever happened to America first? It's time for Republicans to end the chaos and get serious, and we are doing everything we can to make that happen. Now, about the rifts. Every day the Republican chaos seems to get worse. They seem to double chaos almost on a daily basis, and nowhere is this clearer than at HHS. Trump and Vogt managed to do something truly astonishing. They, quote, accidentally fired twice as many public health workers as intended. It's vicious, it's mean, and it's incompetence, all wrapped up in one. Let me say that again. They meant to fire hundreds of people, but they were so careless they accidentally fired hundreds more. They chose to vindictively fire thousands of federal workers and couldn't even do that right. No one is forcing Trump to fire scientists or doctors in the middle of the season. They're doing it because they want to. The goal of Project 2025, a vote, and it seems Trump, is to just decimate the federal government no matter how it hurts the workers and no matter how it hurts the American people. They're gutting America's public health defenses because they want to. And don't take my word for it. Senator Lee said, quote, Russ Vogt has been dreaming of this moment ever since puberty. Republicans need to get serious. They need to negotiate. We are ready to negotiate, reopen the government, and deliver desperately needed health care to the American people. Senator Murray. And my pen. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Leader, the Republicans have signaled that they're going to put a defense appropriations bill on the floor tomorrow. That would be going through the regular appropriations process. Will Democrats support that defense bill?
We have to see what they're going to put on the floor. They haven't told us yet. Yes. No. Right here.
Mr. Leader, can you just talk to us about your comments last week in an interview where you said every day gets better for us because Republicans have seized on that? Can you explain what you meant?
Look, every day more and more Americans see how bad this health crisis is as they get their notices, as they hear all about it, and every day they are seeing more and more that Democrats are on their side fighting for what they believe in. Yes.
Thank you. Early voting in New York begins in 10 days. When are we going to see an endorsement on your party's candidate?
As I said, we've had several good conversations. We've worked together in the past, and the conversations will continue. Yes, Chad.
Thank you. There's a town hall meeting tonight on CNN with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders about the government shutdown. Is it a concern to you that the progressives and the left wing get so much attention sometimes compared to moderates, and does that distort the Democrats' message?
We're fighting on the same side. We all believe that there's a health care crisis, and we all believe that we have to address that with the American people. Go ahead, Manu.
Republicans have rejected all of your demands so far, so isn't it incumbent upon you to compromise, move a little bit closer to their position, scale back your demands? Shouldn't you show a little give here?
The bottom line is they won't even negotiate with us, so that's a premature question. But of course, I'm not going to negotiate in public. We need to address the crisis that is afflicting, and that's the right word, the American people. Last one.
Even if your health care demands are met, would it be enough for you to support a government funding bill if the White House decisions continue, or is that a red line for you?
Look, I'm not going to negotiate in public. You know the things that we are asking for. Thank you. Nothing's. Go ahead.
Leader Schumer.
Yes.
Thank you. Apparently, Leader Thune has said that he's open to holding a vote at a set date. So 2 questions. One, are you open to that? What do you as Democrats need to see? And I think that's my 2 questions.
Look, we're not negotiating in public, plain and simple. And Leader Thune has not come to me with any proposal at this point.
Leader Schumer. Do you have a good enough idea of how this defense bill will be packaged with possibly labor HHS to allow Democrats to vote to get on that defense bill today?
Right now, the only thing that is on the floor is just the defense bill. Thune needs unanimous consent to add anything else to it. We don't even know if he'll get that. It's always been unacceptable to Democrats to do the defense bill without other bills that have so many things that are important to the American people in terms of health care, in terms of housing, in terms of safety.
Leader Schumer, are you... Leader Schumer, good afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You are correct.
Yeah, well, we try to be correct in journalism. That said...
Sometimes.
The Republicans continue to say that this shutdown is because you're worried about Ocasio-Cortez and the left. She even said last night that she is not primary. How does that make you feel?
Look, the bottom line is we are fighting for the American people. We see the anguish they face everywhere we go, in our districts, in our states. People are not just, oh, this is something new and not so good. They're saying it's horrible. What am I going to do? With so many, another person I met, the kid has cancer, and the treatment has been cut off, the research has been cut off. We are fighting for the American people. The Republicans can talk all the political stuff they want. We're on the side of the American people because they need help.
From the very beginning of this crisis, Senate Democrats and House Democrats have made clear we are fighting to address the health care crisis that Republicans have created, the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, as part of the Republican One Big Ugly Bill that hurts everyday Americans in order to benefit their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. Hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing all across America because of Republican policies. That's hurting everyday Americans. Their refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits is going to result in tens of millions of people in Republican-held states, Democratic states, purple states, all across the country. It doesn't matter. Tens of millions of people are going to experience dramatically increased premiums, co-pays, and deductibles. It's going to make health care unaffordable for people. They will be unable to see their doctor or take their children to see a doctor when they need one. That's not acceptable in this country. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. So Democrats are standing up to address the cost of living crisis that Republican policies like the Trump tariffs have made worse, and we're standing up in defense of the health care of the American people.
The American people are in a crisis in health care, and we are fighting for them. We are on their side. The American people are seeing that we are on their side, doing everything we can to get the Republicans to negotiate and address this crisis. And it is devastating. People every day are getting notices from their insurance companies in their states. The average American on ACA could see their costs double, even triple. And that's in red states, that's in blue states, that's in every state. I just talked about a person in the North Country, Stefanik's district, who now pays $2,800 for health care. He'll have to pay $20,000. What is a family going to do when they see that to have health care, to keep their health care insurance, they got to come up with $20,000? What do they do? What do they tell their children? That they can't go to the doctors they've been seeing? What do they do if someone has cancer and is cut off from treatment? What do they do if their hospital closes and another hospital's 100 miles away and they can't get to their doctors? So the American people are facing one of the most devastating crises they have faced in terms of cost, and we still have not heard crickets out of any negotiation with Johnson or with Thune. The Republicans are on the defensive. They keep changing their stories and changing their arguments, but we are on the side of the American people.
Democrat leader.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
So, Mr. President, we enter another week of Donald Trump's government shutdown. And Republicans seem happy not to work, happy not to negotiate, happy to let health care premiums spike for over 20 million working and middle-class Americans. Our country is staring down the barrel of a health care catastrophe, and Republicans will spend this week either vacationing or holding pep rallies at the White House. It's been over a month since the House of Representatives even took a single roll call vote. That's shameful. That's derelict. Government workers must work without getting paid. House Republicans get paid without working. What about the Democrats? Our position remains the same. We want to end the shutdown as soon as we can and fix the ACA premium crisis that looms over 20 million hardworking Americans and many tens of millions more whose premiums will also go up. Look, the ACA premium crisis is not a fix-it-later issue, like Republicans keep pretending it is. It's a fix-it-now issue. because very soon Americans are going to have to make some really difficult choices about which health care plan they choose for next year. When they see the amounts of money, when they see the increase in the number of dollars that these premiums will cost them because the tax credits expire, $500 a month, $600 a month, $1,000 a month for older couples in the over $20,000 a month, they're going to have to make an awful choice. Do I cut out health care altogether and be left alone? Or do I cut back on everything else to afford a health care plan? Do I have to look for a new plan with different doctors, different hospitals, higher copays, higher premiums? Every American, just about every American, or so many Americans, tens of millions, are going to have to start making that choice the next month. Health insurance prices under the ACA are now available in about a dozen states, and Americans in those states are already seeing with their own eyes the horrifying truth, what we've been warning about for months, that multiple millions of people are going to pay tens of thousands of dollars more for health care, so vital to Americans. When you are in a family and you know you can't provide health care for them, or much reduced health care, and you look at your spouse, you look at your kids, and you say, what am I going to do if they get sick? What a frightening experience for people that Republicans are putting America through, all because they wanted to cut all this health, cut Medicaid and cut so much else in health care to pay for tax cuts for the wealthy. It's just perverse. It's inside out. It's upside down. And let's be clear about who will get hurt if these tax credits expire. Republicans have been lying about that too. If the ACA premium tax credits expire, the majority of people who will pay more out of pocket are working and middle-class families. In fact, the majority of people who benefit from the expiring tax credits live in Republican districts. The state of Louisiana, home of Speaker Johnson, is one of the states about to suffer most. I read an article last week from CNBC. It said, the headline, ACA enhanced subsidy lapse could hit early retirees hardest. Middle-class couples in their 50s and early 60s who are too young to qualify for Medicare face the largest dollar increase in premium payments. One Idaho couple interviewed by CNBC will see their premiums spike not by 50%, not by 100%, by 300%. $15,000 more a year just to have health insurance. That's what financial ruin looks like. In fact, if these tax credits expire, older Americans could end up spending 30% of their income just on health care premiums. Can you imagine? What kind of country do we live in? What kind of party is this Republican Party that is unwilling to solve this problem, which is staring Americans in the face, frightening Americans from one end of the country to the other? And yet Republicans, what are they doing about it? Nothing. They're on vacation. It's unacceptable and morally repugnant. Democrats are demanding nothing more or less than what the overwhelming majority of Americans already want. Even a majority of MAGA voters want it. 58% of those who voted for Trump say renew the tax credits on into next year. Americans want to keep their health care costs low and avoid financial ruin. Americans want to see the government reopened as soon as possible. And Democrats agree, we're at the ready. We want to get past this crisis, but Republicans need to wake up from whatever dream they're in, because fixing the ACA will require them to take action.
Impacts of this shutdown are irreversible. Food stamps will start to dry up at the end of next month. Are Democrats at least in part to blame for some of that pain because you are the ones holding
We have a very simple request. Sit down and negotiate. The American people are aghast. Any observer, objective observer, is aghast that here on this serious problem, they won't even negotiate with us. So the onus is on them to sit down. But that is why we have urged, Hakeem and I have urged Trump to sit down with us and seriously negotiate before he goes away.
Leader Schumer,
yes.
Why didn't your party extend the enhanced Obamacare subsidies longer in the 22 reconciliation bill? And
And
Let's not have straw men here. We asked 3 times for them to extend it this year, and 3 times they voted no. So they're the ones who are not doing this, not us. Yes, last one.
Leader Schumer, leaders going to offer to negotiate on the Affordable Care Act with you if you reopen the government. Why won't you take the deal?
The bottom line is that's no deal. That's a partisan plan that leaves the American people high and dry. And they've asked us for 45 days and 45 days and 45 days. When they say another 45 days, later to them means never. We have to get them to the table and negotiate with us now. I'll call on one more person. Yes.
Are you going to weigh in on the New York?
No. Burgess.
Do you have any plans to talk to the president about the shutdown?
Yes.
Engage with him?
Hakeem and I reached out to the president today and urged him to sit down and negotiate with us to resolve the health care crisis, address it, and end the Trump shutdown. He should things get worse every day for the American people. He should sit down with us, negotiate in a serious way before he goes away.
Did you call him, or how did you contact him?
We urged him to meet with us, and we said we'll set up an appointment with him anytime, any place before he leaves. Mr. President, open enrollment is 5 days away. Starting this Saturday, tens of millions of Americans face the specter of financial crisis, all while Donald Trump is dancing on the tarmac in Malaysia. Donald Trump may be having a nice time abroad, but people here at home are dreading open enrollment. Insurance plans that cost $300 or $400 a month will suddenly cost $2,000 a month or more, because Republicans prefer to shut the government down over working with Democrats to extend the ACA tax credits. Consequently, the average ACA plan is set to more than double starting next year. The average 60-year-old couple making $85,000 a year will soon have to pay an extra $22,000 or more just to have health insurance. Imagine the specter. The devastation will be felt across the country, even by Americans with private insurance. They're not exempt. Their insurance is going up quite a bit, too. The rate of people without insurance will spike by the millions. More people will get sick. More people will lose coverage. More people will go bankrupt. More people will die from preventable illness. Americans have never seen a health care like this, the one that's about to begin Saturday, and Donald Trump is nowhere to be found. Americans are going to sit at their kitchen tables Friday, Saturday, Sunday and say, how the heck can we pay these bills? What are we going to do without health insurance? What if our kids get sick? What if we get sick? And there is Donald Trump overseas, not even paying attention to this crisis. Instead of sitting down with Leader Jeffries and me, Trump skipped town for his second foreign trip in less than a month. Open enrollment is just days away, and Trump's message to the American people facing financial disaster is, greetings from Malaysia. Here's what the president needs to do. He should negotiate with Democrats to reopen the government and end the ACA crisis right away. The president should stop focusing on foreign escapades, on ballrooms, on bailouts for Argentina, and start focusing on negotiating with Democrats to lower people's health care costs. But Donald Trump isn't taking this crisis seriously still, as millions of Americans are just frightened, tens of millions, about what will happen. Trump continues to use the American people as pawns. This weekend, we learned that the Trump administration, for instance, ordered the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, not to tap into emergency funds to keep SNAP benefits, food benefits flowing to the states. The very same administration that sent $40 million to Argentina at the drop of a hat to help Trump's MAGA ally is now telling hungry families in America they can't have nutrition funding. What gall! The administration's decision to let SNAP freeze is callous, is cynical, and entirely unnecessary. Donald Trump says there's no money to pay hungry kids' workers, but he's spending $40 billion to bail out Argentina, $300 billion on his vanity ballroom, $172 million on 2 luxury jets for Kristi Noem, hundreds of millions for outfitting his foreign jet, but nothing to help hungry kids. What war priorities? What a bubble this president lives in, apart, away, and not caring about the trauma the American people are facing when it comes to health care. Let's be very clear. The administration is making an intentional choice not to fund SNAP this weekend. The emergency funding is there. The administration is just choosing not to use it. And for those who say the money can't be moved around so easily, that's a load of bunk. If the administration can cough up $40 billion for Argentina, they can find money for SNAP by this Saturday. This administration that all year long has trampled over the rule of law, illegally impounded funds left and right, suddenly says the law won't let them fund SNAP to feed hungry kids? Give me a break. Even Republicans privately know that Donald Trump's SNAP ploy is outrageously cynical. Here's what one House Republican said on the issue. She said, I find it hard to believe a department with so many slush funds can't find the money for a month of SNAP benefits. That's a quote from a House Republican. So make no mistake, Donald Trump is manufacturing a SNAP crisis instead of working with Democrats to reopen the government and end the health care crisis, which is very, very real for tens of millions of American families. Because after all, what Democrats are pushing for is the same thing what the American people want. Americans want to see their health care premiums go down. Americans want to see the government reopen. They don't want to have to pay an extra $20,000 a year just to have health insurance. And we Democrats want to solve this crisis right away. Lowering health care is not a crazy demand. It's not some left-wing pipe dream, which it seems the Senate Republican leader wants people to believe. It is rather just common sense. And most Americans, even MAGA voters, agree. 55% of those who voted for Trump, want to see the ACA credits extended. But Donald Trump and his Republican colleagues in the Senate, and even more so in the House, are nowhere to be found. So the choice to keep the government open or keep the government closed is entirely in Donald Trump and Republicans' hands. Time is short. Americans are on the brink of a crisis that could send millions and millions of families into financial disaster. Donald Trump and Republicans, meanwhile, are not even here in Washington to deal with the crisis heading straight towards us. Yield the floor. Note the. Thank you, Tammy. Take some questions. Back there.
Today we saw in Hyattsville, Maryland, several federal workers lining up to get free meals. We've seen the AFGE statement, as you're well aware. What kind of pressure, if any, do you see those type of things having on your company?
Look, I think it's very clear. We Democrats want to do and have always said we can do both. We can provide all the help, provide pay and furlough and back pay for federal workers, and fix the health care crisis. And all they have to do is sit down and negotiate with us, and both can happen. Yes.
Did AFGE President Everett Kelly speak to you before he put out a statement Monday? And how do you respond to his statement that both parties have made their points, now it's time to reopen the government with a clean, continuing resolution?
Very simple, same thing. I told him we can do both, and we need to do both. Both have federal workers get paid in every way and negotiate a way to resolve the Americans' pain in the health care crisis. Yes, yes, yes.
Putting blame aside here, what is your strategy to end the shutdown?
Look, on November 1st, people in more than 30 states are going to be aghast when they see their bills, and they're going to cry out. And I believe there will be increased pressure on Republicans to negotiate with us.
Are you going to vote for Mamdani?
Murray and Baldwin for being here, just 4 days away from open enrollment. Now, where are the Republicans? House Republicans are on week 5 of their vacation. Trump's not even in the United States. And Senate Republicans are running exactly the same failed play that brought America to its knees. Americans are on the brink of a health care crisis, unlike any we have seen in our lifetimes. In states like New Jersey, health care costs are projected to soar by 175%. In New York, the average family, with a plan costing $280 a month, will pay $1,700 a month for the same plan next year. This isn't just a number on a page. Families are going to be in panic this weekend. All across America, millions of them. How are they going to pay this bill? How are they going to live without health care? It's tragic. And of course it didn't have to be, but Republicans are doing nothing. 1 ounce of urgency to fix the health care disaster they created, they're doing nothing about that. So, we're on the precipice of a historic crisis, and Republicans don't even want to talk to us about fixing it. And Trump, where's he? Not even in the U.S. What's he focused on? Trump's focused on $40 billion for Argentina, $170 million in luxury jets for Kristi Noem, $300 million for his ballroom. In fact, his ballroom says that is his main priority. Can you believe that? You can't make this stuff up. His #1 priority is his ballroom when people are suffering? What kind of president is this? Pay for his ballroom and not a dime to stop the health care crisis. Millions of hungry children, families, and veterans are about to lose SNAP benefits. Food on the table. Because Trump personally ordered the Department of Agriculture to rip up its own contingency plan. It's a plan that Republicans like Don Bacon and Susan Collins endorsed. The money is there. The hungry people, the hungry children, the hungry veterans, the hungry elderly could be fed. But Trump's using them as hostages. How cruel, how vicious, how out of touch with people is this huge ego of Donald Trump. Trump deleted the USDA plan from its website. You can see it. Gone, vanished, and erased. Republicans now say the USDA can't use SWAP's emergency fund, but USDA's own shutdown plan said they could and would use it. So this is just pure, vicious hostage-taking. Under past shutdowns, both Democratic and Republican administrations, SNAP was used. SNAP was never lapsed. Not once in modern history, but this is a precedent-breaking, deviation down presidency, deviating further down than we have ever seen. And the administration knows how to do it itself. In 2019, Trump funded SNAP through a shutdown. He's just choosing not to do it, choosing to have kids go hungry. Terrible, awful. The same administration that found $40 billion for Argentina and trillions in tax breaks for billionaires tells hungry kids you're on your own. Senate Republicans silenced, paralyzed, too scared, too cynical to stand up to Trump, even under this situation. Where are the Republicans? As people are losing their health care and have huge pain and pits in their stomach about what to do about it, where kids are not getting fed, Trump's out of the country, House Republicans are out on vacation, Senate Republicans are out to lunch. And every day the shutdown drags on, the pain is deeper. So it's time for Republicans to get serious about ending the shutdown. So today, Democrats will introduce a bill that would extend the SNAP funding and WIC to make sure no child goes hungry, no family goes without food, no lapse will happen. And it will get broad, if not universal, support in our caucus, and we will try to get it passed on the floor. We will try to get it passed on the floor. Bottom line, it's time for Republicans to start getting serious about ending this shutdown before families lose their health care, their food, and their faith that the president, that leaders will deliver for them. Patty. Consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
So, Mr. President, last Friday, the court spoke loudly. They spoke clearly. Donald Trump cannot block SNAP benefits and treat hungry Americans as political pawns. The stories from the weekend were shameful, sickening. People overwhelming food banks, handing out groceries in lieu of Halloween candy, teachers paying out of pocket to give their students extra food. Across America, appalling scenes were seen of people worried they wouldn't be able to feed their families and even themselves. This is appalling, and the courts did the right thing to step in to follow the law. But the Trump administration still refuses to fully comply. A few hours ago, the administration announced that it will provide only partial SNAP benefits to 42 million Americans facing food insecurity, even though the courts affirmed that the USDA has the transfer authority to ensure everyone can receive full benefits. Everyone can get full benefits. The only person standing in the way is Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Even after the courts have spoken, the administration continues to use kids, seniors, disabled Americans, and working parents as political pawns, dangling the threat of hunger over their heads. Providing partial benefits is not enough, is not compliant with the law, and it's particularly cruel of Trump with the Thanksgiving season around the corner. Let me say this, providing partial SNAP benefits is a floor and cannot be a ceiling. Let me repeat, providing partial SNAP benefits is a floor, not a ceiling. The administration must do more, and the courts should do everything they can to force this administration, cruel as it may be, manipulating hungry people as it is doing. The courts must make sure that full benefits are restored. Only Trump standing in the way. On open enrollment, Mr. President, it was a bitter, stressful weekend for millions of Americans, but you'd never guess it listening to Donald Trump. Let's start with open enrollment, which began Saturday. If you look at the papers this weekend, the phrase that everyone used was sticker shock. Sticker shock. While Donald Trump is bragging about remodeling bathrooms at the White House, Americans are panicking about how they will afford health care next year. I read an article from ABC News that interviewed a photographer from Utah who gets her health care through ACA. She will go from paying $495 a month, already outrageous, to $2,100 a month, an increase more than 4 times. It's more than a mortgage. And that is Donald Trump's America. Americans pay more for health care than they do on their mortgage. It's outrageous, and it just puts an anchor around the financial anchor around the ankles of every family. And what is Donald Trump doing in the middle of all this, this horrible sticker shock crisis that people are just feeling so awful about? Well, if you watch Donald Trump this weekend on 60 Minutes, you saw a president utterly dismissive of the pain his policies have caused working people. While people are paying more for everyday expenses, Donald Trump went on TV to insist that everything is fine. He claimed yet again that we have no inflation in this country. The only problem, that's a lie. Trump, talk to the average American and tell them they have no inflation as they're paying more for everything. Particularly this weekend, they learned how much more they're paying for health care. And inflation has accelerated, actually accelerated, since the start of Trump's trade war. Donald Trump also celebrated that grocery prices are going down. Which grocery store does he shop in? Probably none. But when Donald Trump celebrates that grocery prices are going down, it's a surprise to people who actually shop at grocery stores, because they're seeing prices go up and up and up. And when Donald Trump was asked what he's doing to end the shutdown, he said his usual nonsense, it's the other side's fault, utterly ridiculous. Donald Trump is the president. People look to him to negotiate, to fix problems. Finally, I will note this. Donald Trump was also asked several times what his plan is for fixing health care. And what was his answer? Pure gibberish, because he doesn't have a plan for health care. The only plan Republicans have for health care seems to be to eliminate it, and then to tell working people to go figure it out on their own. That's not a health care plan. That's cruel. But it's what Republicans have tried to do with health care for decades. We all remember the moment when John McCain rebuked his party to preserve it. Democrats have been very clear from the start. We need to lower people's health care costs. We need to reopen the government. We need to extend the ACA premium credits. That is what a majority of Americans want. Now on Omer Nutra, my late constituent from New York. Today is a bittersweet day of heartbreak and of relief. 2 deeply anguishing years after Hamas brutally murdered Nutra on October 7th. Finally, Omer Nutra's remains have been returned to Israel. Omer was a proud New Yorker, a Long Islander, a constituent of mine. I've met with his family many, many times since October 7th, and I've been so inspired by their courage, their strength, their resolve. Nothing will ever reverse the pain of losing their beloved son. Nothing will erase that pain. But after long last, Omer can now be laid to rest in a proper burial. May his memory be a blessing. Still today, the remains of 8 more hostages murdered by the brutal Hamas remain in captivity, including that of another New Yorker, Itai Chen. We will never stop working until every last hostage is home. I yield the floor. Shock. While Donald Trump is bragging about remodeling bathrooms at the White House, Americans are panicking about how they will afford health care next year. I read an article from ABC News that interviewed a photographer from Utah who gets her health care through ACA. She will go from paying $495 a month, already outrageous, to $2,100 a month, an increase more than 4 times. It's more than a mortgage. And that is Donald Trump's America. Americans pay more for health care than they do on their mortgage. It's outrageous, and it just puts an anchor around the financial anchor around the ankles of every family. And what is Donald Trump doing in the middle of all this? This horrible sticker shock crisis that people are just feeling so awful about? Well, if you watched Donald Trump this weekend on 60 Minutes, you saw a president utterly dismissive of the pain his policies have caused working people. While people are paying more for everyday expenses, Donald Trump went on TV to insist that everything is fine. He claimed yet again that we have no inflation in this country. The only problem, that's a lie. Trump, talk to the average American and tell them they have no inflation as they're paying more for everything. Particularly this weekend, they learned how much more they're paying for health care. And inflation has accelerated, actually accelerated, since the start of Trump's trade war. Donald Trump also celebrated that grocery prices are going down. Which grocery store does he shop in? Probably none. But when Donald Trump celebrates that grocery prices are going down, it's a surprise to people who actually shop at grocery stores, because they're seeing prices go up and up and up. And when Donald Trump was asked what he's doing to end the shutdown, he said his usual nonsense, it's the other side's fault, utterly ridiculous. Donald Trump is the president. People look to him to negotiate, to fix problems. Finally, I will note this. Donald Trump was also asked several times what his plan is for fixing health care. And what was his answer? Pure gibberish, because he doesn't have a plan for health care. The only plan Republicans have for health care seems to be to eliminate it, and then to tell working people to go figure it out on their own. That's not a health care plan. That's cruel. But it's what Republicans have tried to do with health care for decades. We all remember the moment when John McCain rebuked his party to preserve it. Democrats have been very clear from the start. We need to lower people's health care costs. We need to reopen the government. We need to extend the ACA premium credits. That is what a majority of Americans want.
Democrat leader.
Unanimous consent, the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
So, Mr. President, open enrollment is now upon us. 24 million Americans are now making agonizing decisions about what health care plans they choose, if they even choose one, are able to afford one, about how much they'll be able to pay, and if they can afford health care at all. I want to be very clear. This open enrollment is not like open enrollment to previous years. Never have American families faced a situation where their health care costs are set to double in the blink of an eye. But that's the reality. If you're an average American on an ACA plan, you live with that. The average American on ACA plan will pay 114% more out of pocket. 4 million Americans will lose health insurance entirely. A 60-year-old couple earning $85,000 could pay a staggering $22,600 more a year. How the hell are they going to afford that? And make no mistake, some states will suffer more than others. Here are the states that have seen the biggest increase in enrollment because of the tax credits: Louisiana, Tennessee, West Virginia, Mississippi. In other words, red states. The biggest beneficiaries of these enhanced premium tax credits are red states, millions of people in each in Florida and Texas. Republicans seem ready to tell their own constituents back home, screw you, I'd rather cut taxes for billionaires. That's what's going on. Democrats are going to keep pushing to get these premium tax credits extended. We've asked Republicans to vote for it 3 times. They voted it down 3 times. We're not asking for anything radical. Lowering people's health care costs is the definition of common sense and of what Americans want, all across the spectrum. We want only what a vast majority of Americans need and want. They want to see the tax credits extended. The Senate deserves to see serious negotiations when it comes to health care. Republicans' outrageous delay has cost Americans already too much. I yield the floor. Note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrook.
So last night was a really good night for Democrats and our fight to lower costs, improve health care, and reach a better future for our country. But more importantly than that, last night was a great night for American families that are struggling now to make ends meet, because the election showed that Democrats' control of the Senate is much closer than the people and the prognosticators realize. The more Republicans double down on raising costs and bowing down to Trump, the more their Senate majority is at risk. We are seeing this from one end of the country to the other. That's not my opinion. Guess whose opinion it is? that this shutdown is hurting Trump and the Republicans. Trump himself, here's what he said. This is his words. The shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans. That's what he said about the elections last night. Comes right from him. He knows it. And when Leader Jeffries and I met with Donald Trump in the White House a month or so back, we told him this was going to happen. We warned him that if he didn't do something working with us to address the health care needs of America, and instead insisting on no negotiation with Democrats, that was a recipe for disaster for the country, and it would come back to haunt him. Last night should make it clear to Republicans that they simply cannot continue to ignore not only us, but the American people for the good of the whole country. So again, Leader Jeffries and I this morning demanded that Donald Trump sit down and meet with us to address the health care crisis. Anytime, anywhere, any place, we're ready to meet with him. It's time to sit down and negotiate with Democrats to bring this Republican shutdown to an end and address the health care crisis. But if Donald Trump were smart, he'd recognize the election results for what they are. And at least this quote indicates he may. What are they? What are these election results? They're a bolt of lightning and a wake-up call to Donald Trump to start working with us to end this crisis. The takeaway from last night was unmistakable. Democrats swept in states across the country, red and blue alike. Democrats won in New Jersey by an astounding margin. In Virginia, in Mississippi, in New York, in Pennsylvania, in Florida, in statewide elections, in citywide elections, and in local elections. From school boards to state houses, voters sided with the party that's fighting for them, the Democratic Party. Let last night ring like a siren in Republican ears. The American people are tired of Donald Trump in his willy-nilly policies, raising their costs and just helping his very wealthy friends. The American people are tired of Donald Trump raising health care premiums, ignoring working people. So the way forward is simple. To Donald Trump and the Republicans, work with Democrats, work to end your shutdown by meeting with us and addressing the health care crisis. The American people have spoken. It's about time the Republicans finally listen. Okay, I am ready for your questions. Yes, this gentleman right here. I didn't recognize him, so I figured I'd call him.
Thank you, Leader. What do you say to Republicans claiming you waited until after the elections to reopen the government? Getting past these elections part of your...
Give me a break. We've been trying to meet with Thune and Johnson since late July. We've been trying to meet with Trump since September, and they've said no. We're not the ones waiting. They are. But maybe this election is a wake-up call to them. Yes.
Republicans and Trump to meet with you, but Trump, in addition to saying what's on the chart, also has been calling on Republicans to eliminate the filibuster and do this on their own. Why do you think that he's going to respond to your letter and agree to meet with you?
Well, look, if he says he's a smart politician, the election results were not vague. They were not unclear. They were a lightning bolt. Trump, America doesn't like what you're doing. Change course. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. On health policy, are you willing to now possibly vote on a PCR separate from premium tax credits, and what would you need?
The answer, as I said, is simple, and what we've been saying all along. Republicans who caused the shutdown by not even negotiating with us on a partisan bill should sit down with us and address the health care crisis. That's the way to end the shutdown, plain and simple. Yes, Manu.
Senator Sanders just came here, and he made very clear that a vote itself to extend the subsidies on Obamacare is not enough. We need a commitment that this will become law. Are you in the same Please.
Look, I'm not going to negotiate in public, but we must address the health care needs of the American people. The Republicans got to sit down and talk to us about it. And I agree with Bernie Sanders. The way to solve this is for Trump to sit down with Jeffries and I. That's why we demanded it this morning. Madam President.
Democratic Leader.
First, after I finish my remarks, I ask unanimous consent the following senators be recognized for up to 5 minutes each. Peters, Baldwin, Kelly, Welch.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President, and I'll be brief. After so many failed votes, it's clear we need to try something different. What the Senate is doing isn't working for either party and isn't working for the American people. Democrats have said we must address the health care crisis, but Republicans have repeatedly said they won't negotiate to lower the health care costs until the government reopens. So let's find a path to honor both positions. Democrats would like to see an end to this shutdown, and we want to respect Leader Thune's desire not to negotiate on ACA until after the government reopens. Therefore, we'd like to offer a simple proposal that would reopen the government and extend the ACA premium tax credits simultaneously, and then have the opportunity to start negotiating longer-term solutions to health care costs. Let's do all three. I've spoken with my caucus, and Democrats are offering a very simple compromise. Democrats are ready to clear the way to quickly pass a government funding bill that includes health care affordability. Leader Thune just needs to add a clean one-year extension of the ACA tax credits to the CR so that we can immediately address rising health care costs. That's not a negotiation. It's an extension of current law, something we do all the time around here, as we all know. But we also offer this. Let's create a bipartisan committee that will continue negotiations after the government reopens on reforms, ahead of next year's enrollment period, to provide long-term certainty that health care costs will be more affordable. This proposal reopens the government and ensures working families who are shopping right now for their health care get certainty and financial relief. While open enrollment has begun, insurers can update their rates after we pass a simple extension of the tax credits. With this approach, we do not negotiate health care in the shutdown, as Leader Thune has maintained he wishes, and the American people get the tax credit extension they want. That is what many of our Republican colleagues have floated over the last 6 weeks as a compromise, a one-year tax credit extension and reforms to the credit beyond that. We will agree with the Republican request not to start negotiations until after the government reopens. All Republicans have to do is say yes to extend current law for 1 year. It makes sense. And since what we're proposing is only a simple extension of current law, the Senate could do this within a few hours. This is a reasonable offer that reopens the government, deals with health care affordability, and begins a process of negotiating reforms to the ACA tax credits for the future. Now, the ball is in the Republicans' court. We need Republicans to just say yes. I yield to Senator Peters.
Thank you, Leader Schumer.
Senator from Michigan.
What's happening at America's airports right now is not an accident, it's a stunt. Look at the way the order was designed. 4% of flights canceled yesterday at 40 major airports, with plans to ramp up day to day until it hits 10% and maybe 20%. How much more transparently political can you get? This isn't about safety. It's about politics masquerading as safety. For this administration to go all the way to the Supreme Court just to get out of having to pay SNAP benefits for hungry kids is pathological levels of vindictiveness. This crisis is in the administration's hands. It's all them, not anyone else. The minute the administration wanted to, it could find a fix for SNAP and ensure that people don't go hungry. But they're not choosing to act in what is really a nasty act of hostage-taking against the most vulnerable people in our society.
Democrat leader.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
So, Mr. President, the last 41 days have exposed the depths of Donald Trump's cruelty. He shut the government down longer than any president in American history, took innocent kids, veterans, federal workers as hostages, political hostages, all because he refuses to do anything to fix the health care crisis, and instead keeps pushing policies that will cut people's coverage even more. Look no further than Donald Trump's war on SNAP. Last night, the First Circuit reaffirmed what lower courts have already said. Donald Trump cannot take 42 million hungry people as hostages. He cannot withhold the benefits they need for food for their families. Even now, Donald Trump isn't satisfied. Today, even more cruel, he appealed to the Supreme Court yet again to try and get out of paying full SNAP benefits. The president's done a lot of cruel, nasty, mean things over the years. But going all the way up to the Supreme Court, not once but twice, to ensure kids go hungry is about as cruel a thing as he's ever done. Donald Trump would rather make hungry Americans suffer, make kids suffer, make veterans go hungry and disabled individuals suffer, than do anything to lower health care costs for the American people. The American people will not forget Donald Trump's cruelty and heartlessness over the last 6 weeks. And let me say something else. The American people have now awoken to Trump's health care crisis. Health care is once again at the forefront of people's minds. People now see that premiums are about to skyrocket. They're terrified about how they're going to pay for their insurance. Democrats demanded that we find a way to fix this crisis, and quickly, but Republicans have refused to move an inch. So I cannot support the Republican bill that's on the floor because it fails to do anything of substance to fix America's health care crisis. The health care crisis is causing millions of families back home sleepless nights because they don't know how they're going to afford health care insurance so much needed by their families. Doing nothing is unacceptable, but that's the choice the Republican side made in obeisance to Donald Trump. Republicans now own this health care crisis. They knew it was coming. We wanted to fix it. Republicans said no, and now it's on them. When people's out-of-pocket costs double or triple, very soon Americans will know Republicans made it happen. When 60-year-old couples start paying $20,000 a year for health insurance, they'll know Republicans made it happen. When 4 million Americans lose insurance, when kids with cancer are priced out of coverage, when families face financial ruin, they'll know Republicans made it happen. And the pain will only get worse as more and more people on ACA and with private insurance see their premiums go up and up and up. People out there are struggling. It's harder to make ends meet. Rent is up, groceries are up, people's electricity bills have gone up, and now, thanks to Republicans, health care costs will spike dramatically. The past few weeks have exposed with shocking clarity how warped Republican priorities truly are. While people's health care costs have gone up, Republicans have come across as a party preoccupied with ballrooms, Argentina bailouts, and private jets. Republicans' breach of trust with the American people is deep and perhaps irreversible. And now that they have failed to do anything to prevent premiums from going up, the anger that Americans feel against Donald Trump and the Republicans is going to get worse. Republicans had their chance to fix this, and they blew it. Americans will remember Republican intransigence every time they make a sky-high payment on health insurance. Yield the floor. Note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsterbrooks.